Hey everyone, welcome to your daily update for BTC and SOL. Just a quick reminder that we have news very soon. So we've got our FOMC interest rate announcements, and then tomorrow we've got unemployment claims, and then on Friday we're going to have the Bank of Japan policy rate release. So just be prepared for some action. General rule of thumb, had a question about this earlier, but general rule of thumb is that um, logical liquidity will get taken through some form of a logical action, and then the market will travel off in the logical direction. So that means that if everybody goes long because they see it as positive, then it's really likely you'll get some kind of dip, and then that dip will get bought up by the larger positions and larger players, and then you will get that positive move to the upside, etc. So that's typically how it works, but really it just depends if too many people expect it to go down, then you might get a wick to the upside first. It's really just the order books will be thin, and they will chase some liquidity, and then they'll head off in the direction that's the intended trend afterwards. Okay, so let's have a look at this liquidity. So on the daily, it's just kind of building up top and bottom. Probably a little bit more to the bottom than the top, which makes a bit of sense. Still haven't really seen that 117, 118 area get swept yet on BTC, although it is getting pretty close at the moment. I'm actually thinking we might see that even before you've seen this video. And then to the downside there, once we've hit those sort of 117 areas, there's a lot of levels in there that can reject easily down to the 112 areas, which would pretty much wipe out the daily liquidity. If we compare that to SOL, um, the top side of SOL, like we bounced off that 247 area, which was kind of the all the high time frame resistance was sort of up around there. We still have one daily hold level sitting up at about 253, and we also have a 4-hour front side sitting up about 254. So there's a couple of reasons why the price might wick up there, but the 1-day liquidity certainly isn't really there. People are, they're just buying the dip, so hence the liquidity is forming to the downside. We still have a lot of structural moves to take us to 228 or lower, and the majority of the high time frame structure starts at 214 or lower. So I'll sort of be expecting that those areas are going to get completely cleared out with the news events. So you might see a wick to the top, and then a dump to the bottom, and then a recovery back up to the top. But certainly everything that the price is bouncing around within at the moment is just kind of in range, and it's not really the time to be opening up any high leverage position in either direction. So if we look at the 7-day liquidity, so it's painting a very similar picture. So it's just starting to push towards that 117 area now, and it shows that sort of most of that liquidity taps out about 119. But you can see the clear cluster of liquidity down to that 112 area, and that's the area that is the target for the 117 rejections. So and then it all depends on what happens when it gets there. Does it bounce back really quickly and head to the upside, or does it just fester down there and build more resistances at lower levels to then push further down? You just don't really know until it happens. And as you can see on the SOL comparative, it could push up easily into that 253, hit that daily target. That would definitely be the top side of the 7-day. You can kind of see there's a bit of a gap between where the price is now and getting down below that 231. So the cluster of liquidity that sort of sits below that 231 takes it down to about the 227, 228 area. Then there's a little gap, and then it's sort of down to about that 214 area. So the liquidity matches the structure, and really it's just timing. And potentially for them to go down, looking at the 7-day, maybe it would be worth going up a little bit first, because by going up, it will fill that gap because people will chase it. It makes sense if there's positive financial news and the price starts to go up a little bit, people will chase it, then they could dip, and then they could really go up. So it's pretty hard to trade these types of events. You just got to be really careful with where you look to take your entries. And if we look at the 30-day, there's definitely more to take to the downside in either case, but it doesn't mean they don't go and take that bit at the top before they go down. So on BTC, that basically means taking things up to sort of around that the high 117s, 118 sort of area, and then dumping down into the lower liquidity, which sort of goes all the way down to about 105 in stages from the looks of it. And yeah, on SOL 30-day, there just really isn't much up past that 250s at this point, but there's plenty to take to the downside, with big spikes that you can sort of see around the 214, the 210, and then we sort of go down to the bottom of the chart after that. So yeah, so all the liquidity's there. It matches with all the structure we've talked about the last few days, and now we're just waiting for some action. So let's have a look at these charts. So SOL BTC is rejecting off the trend line, so pretty normal. It created a new uptrend yesterday, and it's just kind of holding that as support. But if it closes, anywhere around here, even here, so just what are we at now? We're at 20411. Then the next candle will open on the wrong side of that, and it could just reject and come down. It's also going to create an interior resistance today, which is going to be here. So that means it could open on the wrong side of the trend, push up into these two, so basically the back side of the uptrend and the underside of the newly established downtrend, and it would have a couple points of resistance there, which it could then reject down to that next level, and that would push it down below the twos, so that would get it down into the 19742 sort of area. It's just doing what it really should. So it's breaking trends. It should come down to the next one anyway, and it's got these levels down here at 19524, which are hard close levels now that need a retest, and the higher time frames are, if we have a look at the weekly is still just rejecting off the range trend, and should be coming back down into the 19s, and this weekly area here at 19012, that's not a hard close level, so it still potentially could dip down below that. There's levels down here a bit further which are hard close levels that haven't been retested at the 17770 type mark, and the monthly in SOL BTC is still in rejection off the trend as well. So pretty much we just should be expecting to see weakness in SOL, and it all adds up. It's hit those 247 high time frame targets. It needs to sort of pull back before it can generate the next thing that can create a bounce, and all it can really do at the moment is sort of move between trends and lower time frame hold levels. It doesn't really have anything big in support, so it's kind of BTC's time to probably have a little bit of a push up. And then the catch here though is that if SOL's in weakness against BTC and BTC pushes up into resistance and then dumps, SOL can actually dump quite hard against that. So it's so some of those lower levels may be what we get to see during the news events. Okay, the safety assets. So we may get to move a trend today, so it all kind of depends just on whether this closes with an accumulation or whether it flips to distribution, really. So and this actually does mean you could then see a bit of a pump if this trend moves. So at the moment, if we stay above that 64.3% mark and the candle closes in accumulation, what will happen is the trend will shift from all the way back here, and it will come across and move to the top of this. Now when that happens, it does create resistance, and we've already got existing resistance running through there, and we haven't hit the break level yet at 64.68. So if this happens, we could push back up into this resistance and then come all the way back down to the hold level down here at 63.63. Now, if that happens, we actually see a bit of a upwards strength in altcoins versus BTC and stables. So it's kind of interesting to see that happening, given that there appears to be quite a general blanket weakness coming in on some of these alts at the moment. So the other option, of course, is that it closes down for the day, which can happen in the next 2 hours. And if that does happen, then we will create some kind of trend, which I have to probably find. I have to find the anchor point for that trend, but it's going to be, yeah, it's going to be based off something back there, but there'll be some kind of move of a low time frame trend, and then that might get us a little bit more of a push up to this break level up here at 64.68. It's actually also possible that just purely because we're breaking this downtrend, we get a push up through the resistance to tag the break level anyway. So it's a bit of a mess, this one, just kind of where it's sitting, which I suppose is what you're going to expect if you're going to head into a news week. By shifting this trend to the top side, you are in actual fact breaking that trend, in which case you could get a push through the trend to the break level because it's already hit the hold level, so that's kind of not a target anymore, that's job done. So yeah, you might get a push through the trend, and sometimes when you get these trends condensing like this, you can actually get a push right through to the topside trend, which has pretty good confluence with the next hold level up there at 65.1% and 65.01%. And that's actually been the target that we've sort of been watching out for quite a while now, was just a retest of that area. So if we do get that retest in combination with pushing through two trends at the same time, what that means is that the alts would take a short, sharp sort of dump as this pushes up, but then when it rejects off all of this and comes back down under the trends and pushes down to this hold level, they would then get a big pump up. So yeah, it's definitely gearing up. It's gearing up for something. Okay, so looking at our totals. So totals on the daily are looking a little bit bearish. So we're going to get a resistance trend, interior resistance trend forming between these two candles here if this closes the way it is. And it's also not it's not going to create a hold level to fight that trend unless it gets above 364.45 for the day. So yeah, the close here is quite important. If it closes down, then it doesn't create that interior trend. But yeah, as it currently stands, it's looking to create some resistance. It's not moving the current interior support trend. Really, there's not a lot of goodness in this, and it hasn't actually retested this 353.26 hard close level yet. So really, it looks more like more downside is going to come, and like anything, it could sweep the trend first. It has tested the whole level up here at 367, which is what's created this rejection. So yeah, if we did get a sweep up there into resistance and then a push back down to the next trend, that would be pretty logical, really. And then it all just comes down to how long does it stay down there, because if it spends more than a day in distribution, then you get another hold level forming around that 361, and then that makes it harder for it to come back up. It's just more points of rejection. But my guess would be that if we do get some kind of dump down in this, it'll probably recover quite quickly. Okay, so if we look at it from the other direction, we are creating, yes, in this case we are probably, as long as we close up, going to create a new hold level here at 3.73, and we haven't hit yeah, we haven't hit that topside trend at this stage from where we are. So we're going to get a new resistance trend potentially coming in somewhere around here. So yeah, this is definitely an interesting one. It's kind of set up for much along the lines of what we just saw on the DXY balanced version. It's setting up for potentially opening across the top side of the trend, which could give a push up, a rejection to the hold as a dive for liquidity, and then a bounce. All depends on where the candle starts. So yeah, this is also gearing up for sort of like a big swing move, in both directions. So I think there's probably enough so far to justify that we're going to see some kind of big Darth Maul event where we get wicks in both directions and then a trend forming. Looking at that, but it would be worth just noting that in this case we are holding the daily uptrend. We've got a channel formation, and so if we were going to get a big push to the upside for a liquidity grab, it could be all the way up to this trend line up here at about that 3.88 area. If it does that from the wrong side of all the resistance, then there's going to be a big dump. But if it stays sort of more within this range and just sticks around that 3.73, and then maybe even uses the 3.73 to break through the top side of the current daily downtrend, then it could look at the break level here at 3.79, and if we can get up over the top of that and close over top of that, then it's more of a sustainable structural move to the upside. So yeah, it's good to get another hold level there, that's for sure. But we haven't tested these ones down lower yet, so right, what do we got? And the weekly, I shared this in the Discord earlier today. The weekly is in a amazing spot. Not that it closes for another 5 days, but it could potentially be the highest weekly close we've had on risk assets by the time you take all the stables, etc., out of all the main stables. If this actually closes the week above that 3.78 trillion break level, then you're talking about something that could just bounce off the top of this trend or even just off the top of the break level. And the next resistance is a really long way up. So that's this could be the final sort of push up to the tops on the total market cap. Let's have a look at BTC. So this is very, very tricky little place to be. So BTC on the daily created an interior range trend in this 4-candle formation here. It's pushing up through the main downtrend, which it's not going to break today, but it kind of has an option from here. In the next hour and 49 minutes, it could close over the top of this range trend, in which case it can bounce off it and have a push up. Or it could pull back just underneath it, in which case it could have a rejection and go down, and it has not got a hold level in here to support it. So it's one of those ones where you wouldn't want to be long or short until you see how this closes. And the resistance levels for this are really quite close. So as mentioned, pretty much as soon as we start to get to that 117 area, we have a heap of different resistance levels across a lot of time frames. There's just looking across at another screen right now. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've got 6. We've got 14-day, 15-day, 25-day, 28-day, 32-day, and 4-week resistance levels, all in the 117 area. So there's a huge amount of high time frame resistance sitting up here. And with high time frame resistance, you can get a wick through it, but it's usually it will usually be obligated to push to the downside, and that's that's kind of what we're seeing here. I don't know if I'd really be too keen to short this based on if it closes above that range trend, because what it's trying to do if it closes above that range trend is actually come back up here to that 120 level, and that 120 level is probably a level that could be shorted quite successfully, but it all depends on how it gets there. If it gets there really fast, it'll be able to come down really fast. If it's slow, then it may build different trend support, and that trend support that it develops could stop the short from coming back down. So it's all really just how does it get there. It's kind of inevitable that it goes there because this this whole thing, this whole area back here from August is pretty much a backside frontside order block. So all this rejection was the backside, and now the price is trying to come back up here to the front side. So yeah, we're going to go to that 120. It's just a case of when do we do it. Maybe that's where they spike up to with the news event. You know, maybe it goes up, hits it, and has a really solid dump. And yeah, it's all a bit. It is pretty tough when you're sort of stuck in the middle of an area like this to know which way it's going to go first. Okay, 7-day is really overextended. It's not breaking any trends. It's basically just more likely to have a pullback, which would just give a bit of confluence to that sort of 113 area or lower. The main level through there has been retested. This level here at 107 is not quite retested, so that's potential for if this turns into a liquidity grab followed by a dump. But we are also going to get another break level in here at 109, so yeah. And we've got an origin level up here, funnily enough, at 120, so you'd have to say that the range for the price in here would sort of be 120 to 109, which is quite a big range. But if it goes up and rejects off that origin level, the first thing it's going to come back down to is to try and break this trend. And you know, if it does successfully break that trend, then it moves to the next trend, which is back down to those sort of 108, 109 areas. And so that's all that's really telling us. It's still holding the range trend as well, which is positive, but that's still down there about 110, 111. So there's definitely some room for this to reject, and it's almost just unhealthily overextended to the top side at the moment. The 37-day close today is going to be in between the two trends, so again that just gives it a reason to push to 118s, 119s, maybe sweep the trend, and then come back down to try to find support, which is going to be somewhere below the 114 at a minimum, but nothing up here is hard closed, so really that means it could come all the way back to 106. These are all very realistic numbers based on the structure. We'll get another interior trend like this forming today, which brings that 112. So pretty much this would have 114s, 112s, 106s as potential targets for any kind of rejection off the underside of the trend that it's under now. And for that to really change, it has to close over 118, 119 almost. Really, it has to flip to a positive close. I mean, the world changes very quickly if this thing becomes a positive candle, because that would be that'd be a hard close of the resistance trend, and then the top side trends all the way up here, which is a bigger number than I would be expecting out of this run. But hey, their lines, they are where they are. Okay, so let's have a look at SOL. So SOL on the daily is holding the new daily support, so that's positive. If it closes over 139.661 for the day, then it'll create a hold level at the top of this candle. That would also be positive to try and break anything to the upside. As far as potential bearish price action, it's going to create some kind of internal trend like this. So, excuse me. Much like BTC, except this is a lot weaker. So BTC has created this kind of structure, and it's trying to close above it, which to almost give it the ability to have another push up. Whereas at this stage, Sol actually looks like it's trying to close under it, as well as under one of the old range trends. And if it does that, then yeah, it can definitely break to the downside, and that would make so much sense given that it's just gone up so much in the last few days, and it's got all these areas to retest down here. So there's sort of your 219, 217, 213, 214 type areas. They're all just sitting there. And if we do lose, because we've already lost the main first uptrend, which was this line that was running through here, and I've just kind of left it on the charts just in case it does a bit of a spike up and hits the backside of that as a retest or a liquidity grab, which it would definitely be a liquidity grab because it would be pushing through all of these other trends. So if we do come up and hit on the next candle this spot right here, which you start to see how you get this diagonal and horizontal confluence. So we have a daily level, and we know we've got a daily hold level up around 253, and tomorrow that has confluence with a trend retest of the broken trend, which broke the day before. So do we get a sweep up to here and then a dump back down? Because that would be a big liquidity grab. Like if it pushed up through all these trends and then started to reject quite rapidly, then yeah, if it pulled back down and closed under these trends, you would expect continuation down to these sort of lower levels. And that would be such a healthy thing to happen, because then at least you know that they've grabbed the liquidity, they're going to come down, and it's only the the big players, the big high time frame traders that are going to grab this liquidity on the daily. And if they do that, they're going to come down here to these lower levels, and then they're going to do the same thing. They're going to liquidate all the people that chase the pumps, and then they're going to use these high time frame levels to give you that final big push up. So yeah, you almost want to see that happen, just because then you know that there's some players in the game that are still interested. So looking across to the 7-day close today, it's in trend rejection, and it's just teasing us with the origin level close here. So a close above 237.5 would be the level in here. A close above that level could bounce a 7-day origin level, and that would give you that sweep to the upside. And it should be pretty quick based on an origin level bounce. If it pulls back under that, then it should reject and then come back down to the trend. But either way, it won't be a hard closed level, and it cannot be hard closed. Even if it opens up there at 237.5, it can't be hard closed for another 7 days. So whatever it does, like if it bounces off the top side of the origin level and pushes up and grabs all that liquidity, it still can just roll all the way back down and lose that level again, because it's approached it in a sort of unsustainable way. So that's what that's telling us. And going slightly higher to the 37-day time frame, this is going to break its downtrend today. So that's also very, very bullish, long-term bullish. There's really nothing for this to target other than a topside trend up there at about 265. It's going to shift the trend to the top side. So long-term bullish, short-term could get big rejection is what that means. So by shifting the trend to the top side, and with the wick on this candle being as big as it is, that introduces kind of like a secondary double top rejection potential anywhere above that 247, 248 area. And it's kind of all about the sweep, like if it as back here when the trend shifted from down here. So when it went from there to there, and then this candle did the sweep of the trend, then you get the big move down. So it really just depends, what does this do? How big is the sweep? If it's a really big sweep, that's bearish, very bearish. If it's a medium one and it just does a little bit over the top, then that's not so bad. So if it rejects this trend, absolute worst case is this hold level down here at 172.120, and there's just so much high time frame stuff in between that it's unlikely it does that, but just be ready. What's more likely is that it uses the backside of the combination. So you've got this level here at about 208.990, and that's well within the range of all the high time frame support. So it's actually quite bullish. It's almost, it's very, very close to the top of all the high time frame support. So starting at 214 and heading down, 208, 209 basically is really not that far into it. And if it used that to bounce, then it could go up to a higher high, and then one day in the bear market, after a few candles, so say 37-day candles, maybe you get 2 or 3 candles to the upside and then roll back over to come back down and test this, and that would, by then we've hit our top and we're moving back down. So that's what that's saying. And the only other one just keeping a really close eye on is I think it was the 3-week, so the 3-week time frame has got a trend that we moved yesterday or the day before, whenever we had weekly close. This moved, and it hasn't actually retested that yet. So and this has a range trend for support down around 214. So this is kind of what I call hovering, like it's just waiting for something, and the trend's moved, the resistance is up there, it's sort of between about 244 and 248. It could sweep it, obviously, because it's a high time frame play, but it's just sort of hovering. It hasn't gone up yet, it hasn't gone down. It needs to resolve one side. Like if it goes down first, then it can bounce back up. If it goes up first, then it can come back down. But there's a couple time frames like this that are just hovering, and normally that's what you sort of see before news. So I'd expect these sides to get resolved in the next few days, and probably the levels that I'll be starting at when it comes to the news events. And it turns out that SOE trade went really well yesterday if you actually did take it off the range trend. Where was it? Yep. So this was so this line down here, that's where we created the range trend. That was the first touch test of the range trend, and then you'd be good. I took this as a smaller scalp just based off the continuation of the hold level, but closed it at about 3.5. That was kind of like the first scalp of the day. But as you can see, it after doing the hold level, which was this method of trading here, so after it went up and hit the hold level here, very, very quick move at the start of the day, it came back down, tested the range trend, and then it's had a bigger move up. So it is actually probably still going up. Looking at this, it would make sense for it to come up and test one of these trends up here. So it's probably still going up, but it's too late now. Missed that. I didn't have an alert set, which was absolutely stupid after telling everybody that, hey, this thing could come back down and do this. I didn't have the alert set. What else is going on? But it's still, there'll still be a move on SOE on the monthly from the looks of it if it closes high enough. So we'll get that trade. And ENA moved its trend. It's finding support on its trend. I mean, if you really wanted a little scalp, there's a high probability scalp in here that it's going to retest the backside of this 2 candle range. So as long as it holds that trend for the rest of the day, it'll probably give a bounce on the top of it and come back up to retest this level here at about 73.40. So that could just be a bit of a daily pocket money trade. And World Liberty Finance, I'm still kind of want to, this has hit the break level, so that's great. Sort of want to see it get up over the top of that break level, recover the trend, in which case then you should be able to get a pretty high probability move on that of about 14% up to the backside of the range for a retest. So that's looking pretty good. ZEUS on the weekly is still pooing the bed. It's basically fighting between the weekly hold and the weekly trend, and one of these two is going to win. If it ends up closing the week out to the downside, then it's most likely a goner. There's not really much else to hold that up. Saw an interesting post about this today. They're talking about stake your BTC and get yield, and I haven't looked into it, but I'm just really curious as to how you can get yield on BTC. It's not a yield generating asset, which means they're probably just printing tokens. This reminds me of Ponzi schemes of the past. What's Cook up to? Not much. Below trend. It's got a lot of room to move up, but if it closes below here, it's probably going to have a bit more downside because it's going to shift the trend there. So still expecting this to come up and retest that range at the top side, but probably not going to do it now for a week or two at least, based on what it's doing. Hype's looking good on the weekly. It may hard close that weekly resistance range, and if it does that, then any of these levels down below, if retested, would be areas to go into a long. So that's actually looking a lot better than it was yesterday, but still got 5 days to go, and it's quite a volatile thing, so it may just bounce around and keep going up and down. And say still looking good for a 1 month option on this. So just want to make sure it stays above the downtrend, stays above the uptrend, opens a new candle, and then look to enter in here and target the upper levels. So yep, everything is looking pretty good on all of that. And as far as yesterday's little trades, because the price was quite just ranging in quite a small area yesterday, aside from the easy pickings that was on SUI first thing in the day, this was basically the trade set up for yesterday. So we were dropping down. We generated a hold level up here in that sort of 239 area, and we broke our trend. We formed another one, closed back up inside, took a long TP. So there were a few other higher time frame levels, so you just got to be a bit careful of these when you're trading on, say, the 4 hour. But eventually what happens is it just takes a long time, but it usually gets there because there'll be confluence in the various levels. But so yeah, took a scalp on the trend, took a TP at the 8 hour backside. There was an 8 and a 12 hour, neither one of them actually been hard closed, so based on that it was a pretty good chance it was going to keep going up. And then yeah, it just kept on breaking trends until it hit the 4 hour hold level up here at 239, and that was that trade done. So yeah, when the market's sort of going really slowly sideways like this, with pending news events and things like that, you've pretty much just got to dial down the time frame. All of the the structure of trading and how the price moves is all the same. It's just the time frame. So yeah, hopefully that helps a bit, and we'll catch you again on the next one. Like, subscribe, and all that stuff. Cheers, bye.